everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I've got a fun project for you today. It's using the simple wedge ruler, and let's take a look at this quilt behind me. Isn't this fun? I love the look of this. I love this background. This is really fun. You know, I tend to use the same colors in my background all the time, and it's fun to use something different. So to make this quilt, what you're going to need is one roll of 2.5-inch strips, and we've used Elizabeth Hartman's Reef for Robert Kaufman, and then you're going to need this background fabric right here, 4 yards of this, and we've used the Essex Linen Oyster Metallic, and it's just so fun to use something different in your background. For the outer border, this is a 6.5-inch border, and you're going to need 1.25 yards for that border. So let me show you how to make this, because this is really fun. So you're going to open your roll, and you're going to select 2 strips, and you're going to sew those together. You're then going to take your background fabric, and you're going to cut a 5.5-inch strip off your background fabric, and you're going to sew it to your 2 strips. So I've done this already for you. So here's my two 2.5-inch strips sewn to a 5.5-inch strip of background fabric. We just did a straight 1/4-inch seam on all of those and just ironed them so they were nice and flat. Then you're going to grab your simple wedge ruler, and you're going to lay it on here, and I'm going to turn this so I can start this way. This is for my left hand, and we're going to start right like this, and I'm going to line this ruler up with the bottom edge of my strip set, and I'm going to come over as far as I can. You're going to need 8 of these cuts from each strip set, so let me show you how we do this. We're going to go here, and then we're going to go here. Now this is a great time to use a rotating mat if you can't switch hands like I just did. And you're going to stack these up in 2 piles, because one pile, this is going to be the big side, and the next pile, the strips are going to be big, and that's the one I'm doing right now. Again, lay it down, line it up on the edge, and make sure your template is right along that bottom. All right, so see the 2 different ones right there? And you're just going to keep going along and cutting them, and you're going to have 4 of each kind. There we go. Hang on. Got to get everything lined up. There we are. And you should be able to just cut side to side to side to side. Well, I have some of these already cut, so let me show you how I sew them together. All right, I'm going to set this over here. Here's some that I have that are already cut, and I'm going to sew these 2 together right here. Now you want to make sure when you sew together that like one of these is always on the bottom and one is always on the top. Otherwise these will come out together, and you don't want that. You want them opposite like this. And so you just want to make sure. What we're making when we sew these together, we're making halves. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 and I'm going to lay them right on top of each other, match up, just match them up, and sew 1/4 inch down the side. So let's go to the sewing machine and sew 1/4 inch. There we go. And we're going to trim these threads, and then I'm just going to press it back. Like that. You know what's fun about this metallic is that you can iron on it, you can wash it. It's just awesome. All right, so now it's time to put these 2 together. And so I'm going to lay these together like this. And I already have the other half going over here, so I want to make sure these are going to match up. Oh, and they will. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure that I got that, because if I had to put it on the other side, it would be better to know now. It's better to check than to rip, right? All right, here we go. We're sewing 1/4 inch, and we're going to sew this half together. All right, nest those in. And then we're going to press this open. This is one of those that looks like you worked so hard, but it really comes together fairly quickly. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take this one, and we're going to lay them right sides together like this, and sew that 1/4 inch. And on this one right here with this center seam, you want to make sure one seam is going one direction and one the other. Mine are actually going the same direction, so I'm just going to fold one of mine the other way, and then I'll iron it down. When I get done, I'll go back to the iron and press that the way I want it to go. All right, so line them up again. This is a nice because it just lines up right on the edge. You're not matching any of these inner seams at all. And then this center seam you want to match. So make sure one seam is going one direction, one the other. And there we go, and then make sure these stay together. Just like that. There we go. All right. Now we're going to press this open. And that center seam did pretty good. All right, let me get this like this. You just want to make sure this is nice and flat. All right, now we got to do the squares on the corners. And for our corners, we're going to use 6-inch strips. You're going to need 4 of those for your whole quilt. And so I have a piece of mine here. And I'm just going to make sure this is nice and straight. And I'm going to cut a 6-inch strip right here. Make sure I'm straight on my mat and straight on my ruler. And we're cutting a 6-inch strip. And then we're going to cut this into 6-inch squares. So let's go ahead and trim off our selvage edge right here. And then we're going to come in and we're going to cut 6 inches. All right. Now we're going to do that to all 4 of those strips, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut these diagonally, corner to corner like this, and this is going to make our corner blocks right here. So what you want to make sure when you put these on is half of them, the block is going to go to the same fabric, and the other half, the block is going to go to the color, and that's what makes them turn. Let's look at the quilt behind me. So you can see right here, see these corners? These corners are on the fabric. The next corners are on the background. So just make sure half your blocks, half and half, you know, so that you get that movement in there. All right, let me show you how we put these on. So I'm going to attach these to the color, and I'm just going to lay them on right sides like this, and I'm going to sew 4 all the way around 1/4 inch, and they're going to stick out a little bit, and that's okay because we're going to square up our blocks when we're done. So I'm just going to run this on here, and then I'm going to turn it. I'll clip my thread just for you guys, and then I'm going to turn it onto the next fabric. Oh, I have a bit of a selvage edge on that one. I didn't realize it was in so far. Center that up on there. Make sure it hangs off even amounts. Not sure how to say that exactly, but you want to make sure that you have, you don't want wonky corners, what I'm trying to say. Just make sure when you're putting these corners on that they're centered as good as you can. I mean, just, you know, give it a look. Make sure you're sticking out either parts on either side of that block. And I'm just going to press these back right now. And this makes it easy to trim up because we've got nice straight edges in between. So see how they're a little over? They're supposed to be like that. We're going to use our middle piece here as our line, and we're going to trim it straight down to the corner like that. And up here, square it, and off. There we go. Now we're going to turn this and do the same thing on all 4 sides. Turn again. That way, if they're not perfectly centered, you're still probably okay. You just want to make sure you're pretty close. And one more side. There's that one, and and off we go. All right, so this is your block. Isn't this cool? And when you're ready to put them together, you're going to put them together. You're going to have another one that's made. And you see how this comes together. You're matching up your background, but we've got a corner on the color and a corner on the background, and it just makes them have that turning motion. So you're just going to sew them together just like that. And let's see here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the top row, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going down, and that's going to make a quilt that's 76 by 92. So it's a pretty good size quilt. Now I want to show you a couple of things. This is one I did out of practice fabric right here. Isn't that fun? Sometimes it's fun to see them in other fabrics. And this is it in a solid. And that, it's just a completely different look, but so much fun. Really a fun block to make. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the Windmill quilt from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.